You were once told that things slow down with age, that energy fades, that opportunity narrows, that the inner doors become heavier to open. But there is an older understanding that says the opposite, that something subtle reverses after 40. Not in the body alone and not in circumstance, but in the way life responds to you. It is not louder. It does not announce itself. Most people pass it without noticing. Yet those who do notice it often wonder why no one ever mentioned it before. Pause here for a moment. You may already feel what I'm pointing toward. There comes a point in life when effort stops being the currency, when strain no longer produces return, when chasing feels strangely inefficient. This point often arrives quietly, somewhere after 40, not because you are weaker, but because you are no longer hollow. In earlier years, the mind pushes outward. It reaches, it declares, it demands movement from the world, and the world, sensing the noise, resists. Youth is full of force, but force scatters. With age, something condenses. You have seen enough to stop arguing with time. You have felt enough loss to loosen your grip. You have carried enough responsibility that your inner voice no longer needs to shout. This is not decline. This is authority. There is a reason elders in old traditions were silent before they were powerful. Why they spoke less as they aged, yet were listened to more. They were no longer trying to convince life. They were aligned with it. Younger minds often struggle with manifestation, wealth, vitality, not because they lack knowledge, but because they are still negotiating with existence. They ask, they repeat, they visualize, they insist. All of this creates movement, yes, but also friction. After 40, something changes if you allow it. You begin to notice that restraint does more than effort ever did. That withholding is sometimes more effective than pursuing, that silence can rearrange outcomes faster than intention. This is the hidden principle rarely spoken aloud. Life responds more quickly to what is settled than to what is seeking, and by this age you have accumulated something priceless. Weight, not physical weight, inner weight. Your words land differently now. Your decisions echo longer. Even your pauses carry meaning. This is why certain things begin working faster when you stop trying to make them work. The practice I'm about to share is not new. It is older than instruction. It takes less than 10 seconds. It requires no belief. And it is almost impossible to explain without sounding like nothing. Which is why it works. Once per day, and only once, you allow yourself to notice a moment when you could intervene, and you don't. A moment when you could correct or hurry or add something, or mentally adjust the outcome, and instead, you let it stand, that's all. No statement in your mind, no posture, no breath, just a quiet recognition. I don't need to touch this. Then you move on. This single restraint shifts something ancient. Because by not interfering, you signal completion. And completion attracts response. Younger people interfere constantly. They polish what is unfinished because they feel unfinished themselves. After 40, you no longer need to prove presence through action. Life feels this immediately. What begins to change is not dramatic. Your money behavior becomes calmer. You hesitate less, yet also chase less. Decisions feel timed instead of urgent. Your body rests deeper, even when nothing external has changed. Small tensions release without instruction. Opportunities arrive without needing to be improved. Conversations resolve themselves. You say less and receive more. Not always, not perfectly, but often enough to notice. The invitation is simple. For 7 days, notice one moment each day when you choose not to interfere. Do not track it. Do not speak about it. Do not test it. Let it be private. At the end of 7 days, don't look for results. Just notice what feels quieter. Because what works fastest at this stage of life rarely announces itself. Some things only begin working when you stop asking them to. There is something important to understand now. What you are practicing is not withdrawal from life, it is not passivity, and it is not indifference, it is recognition. In older traditions, this was considered a sign of maturity, not restraint, the ability to sense when presence is enough. Before 40, presence feels incomplete without action. After 40, action often weakens presence. This is why so many people feel tired, even when nothing is wrong. They are still interfering where their weight would do more. Interference does not always look like movement. Sometimes it is a thought that adjusts, a sentence you rehearse, a silent argument with how something should unfold. You have lived long enough to know that many of these adjustments change nothing. Yet the habit remains. The quiet shift you're allowing interrupts this habit. When you choose not to touch a moment that does not require you, something listens. Not a force, not a mechanism, something older. Life responds differently to someone who does not rush to shape it. This is why elders were once consoled not for answers, but for their stillness. Their presence clarified situations without instruction. They had learned when not to enter. As you continue this for a few days, you may notice something subtle in timing. Things resolve slightly earlier than expected, or later, but more cleanly. You may find yourself arriving at the right moment without planning, leaving before friction begins, saying less and being understood more. This is not coincidence, but it is also not something to analyze. Analysis would undo it. The body too begins to trust again. Much tension comes from the feeling that something must be managed, that vigilance is required. When you stop interfering once per day, the body receives a signal it has been waiting decades for. It is safe to stand down. Rest deepens, movements soften. Even your face may feel less held, not because you tried to relax, but because nothing demanded your correction, and something else begins to shift. Your sense of worth detaches from outcome. This is critical after 40. When worth is no longer negotiated through success or productivity, life no longer resists you. You stop pulling, and things move toward you instead, quietly. You may notice money staying longer once it arrives, or leaving without disturbance when it must. You may notice that certain desires fade without disappointment, others sharpen without effort. This is alignment, but not the kind spoken about loudly. It is not something you add. It is something you stop interrupting. By the 7th day, do not conclude anything. Do not say it worked. Do not say it didn't. Simply notice whether you trust timing a little more than before. That trust is the real shift, because after 40, life does not respond to desire. It responds to authority, and authority does not push. It waits. If you choose to continue beyond 7 days, do so without increasing frequency. Once is enough. Anything more would turn it into effort, and effort belongs to an earlier chapter. Remember this, the most powerful changes in the second half of life feel almost invisible. They arrive without announcement. They settle instead of excite. And by the time you realize something has shifted, it has already been working for a while. Some things only begin working when you stop asking them to.